we're live on that end. Well, it's gonna take a second. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
Cool. We're live on that end. Okay, so I can mute this. Okay, cool. So it's up.
Live on YouTube.
Live on YouTube. Okay, so today we're gonna cook with chickpea flour, and I actually have 2 recipes. And Raymond, I can get your email address and send you the recipe sheet.
Okay, sure. I'll send you.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna make a chickpea flatbread, which I learned a few years ago from a very sweet lady that came, and I was like, I want to learn how to cook, and this was like the only ingredients we had at the time, and so she threw this together, and it was amazing, and I wrote it down, so I'm really excited to share it with you all, and it's really simple. Chickpea flour, I've heard you can make it, but chickpeas are obviously like really hard, so putting it in your blender would probably be really like a disaster. But to get the flour, I've seen it at HEB, a few HEBs, but the Indian store normally carries it, and it's like a good size bag for, a few dollars. So that's where I get it, and they call it besan, BESAN. So you can find it there. And then I'll show you guys real quick. So, okay. I'm gonna pin the okay. So that just makes sure that you could see what I'm doing here. Okay, so I already have it all measured out because it's easier. This is what the recipe sheet looks like. I don't know if you can see it, but basically we start with 1 cup of chickpea flour, and it's not a lot. In a bag, you'll probably get like 15 cups, so you can make this several times. And then we're gonna add 2 tablespoons to 3 tablespoons of cilantro. Oh, and it looks like Karen, you're cooking with us, right?
I'm going to try to follow along.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
So unmute, and if you need anything or if you need me to slow down or speed up or whatever, just let me know, okay?
I tried to measure everything ahead of time, but I didn't measure the flour.
No problem. Okay, so cool. So we have 1 cup of chickpea flour. And then 2 to 3 tablespoons of cilantro. So I really, really love cilantro, so I tend to add a lot. If you don't like it, you don't have to add it. And these 2 recipes are actually really versatile. You can add anything. Like I have used this exact recipe and added shredded zucchini and whatever other vegetable that I had, and made them into fritters instead of flatbread. I've seen that some people will even just add the chickpea flour and the salt and add maybe like a tablespoon of tapioca flour or starch, and that will make like a tortilla, something a little bit more malleable so that you can make tortillas and you don't have these spices. Then you have about 1/2 inch of ginger. So we just shredded it up really fine. And then salt. Pretty simple, nothing too crazy. Ideally, you pre-sift all of the chickpea flour because it tends to clump, and you don't want that. So with this whisk, we're going to add a cup of water slowly. I used to think sifting wasn't important, but it's very important, especially with chickpea flour because it gets so clumpy. And adding the water in slowly really, really helps too. So this is a thick batter. This is 3/4 of a cup, and you can see it's like pancake batter. At this point, if you wanted to add any like shredded vegetables, you could, and this would turn into like a fritter when you saute it or fry it on a skillet. But I am actually going to add 1/4 of a cup more to make it an entire cup. So you can see it's like a lot more runny now. And this is going to make it more of a flatbread. So you just want to make sure all the sides are good, no clumps. And I'm going to heat my skillet now. So I really like to use stainless steel, and I know that it tends to, a lot of people don't like to use it because they say that it sticks. If you have a nonstick pan and you're doing it for the first time, maybe that's the best way to go. And if you have a nonstick pan, you can even do it without oil. But I like to do it on stainless steel. And the trick I've learned over lots of practice and failure is that you have to heat up the pan before you even put anything on it. You heat it up till it's really hot, and you heat up the oil till it's really hot. And that way, anything that I've even cooked potatoes in stainless steel. Of course, you're gonna have to use a bit of fat, a little bit of oil, but it's really like a non-toxic way to do it. But it'll take some practice. I've messed up plenty of things. And then I wanted to talk a little bit more about chickpea. I really like it because it's a really clean source of protein for vegans, vegetarians. I kind of try to stay away from soy if I can, but I really hope that this helps you all get excited to be in the kitchen, because I know we've probably been cooking a lot more lately. Okay, so I don't think this is hot enough yet. I'm gonna get a small like ladle to pour it out. good. Yeah, this is pretty hot, I can tell. I'm gonna turn it down. So when you're going to put it on a pan, put about um, maybe about a fourth of a cup. And another thing is with cooking with stainless steel is that you don't want to touch it till it's ready. Because right now, if you try to pick it up, you'll see it'll stick. But once it's created like a nice crust at the bottom, then you're going to be easily able to flip it. So just it's scary having all like my electronics and cooking stuff in the same area. So this batter will probably make about 8 or 10, depending on the size. I like to make them smaller just because it's easier to flip and you get more out of it. Um, but it's a good amount, and they're quite filling because it's made of chickpea. Any bread really. You can kind of see that it's drying up. I don't know how well you can see that. Now you can see, even though we're cooking it on stainless steel, it's coming up. Needs maybe a little bit of work. And I did have a little bit of sticky, and I think it's because I didn't have oil where in the center there. But it's salvageable here. We're going to make sure the oil is all coated over. Yeah, I'm going to make a few more. So Karen, how's it going over there?
I think it's going good. I clicked on ceramic, so it's a little bit easier.
Yeah,
than-
ceramic is nice.
Yeah.
I've been eyeing a cast iron skillet, which I've never really used cast iron, but I know that it can be kind of non-stick depending.
Yeah, I have a big cast iron skillet and I keep trying to cook on it just like for health reasons, but like it always gets messed up. So I started using ceramic. Um, so
Alright, we're gonna make another one here.
did you ever put cheese in these?
Put what?
Cheese?
Cheese?
Yeah.
I've never done that, no.
Are you vegan?
Yes, I mean we eat mostly vegan,
Yeah.
but I've never tried to put cheese in. Um, I can imagine though, like even if you make them and then maybe make it like a quesadilla, you could probably do that.
Yeah.
So while we wait, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about cooking with intention. This idea of cooking with intention. Um, to me, there's lots of different levels of cooking. It's really like a meditation. Um, the first level is the physical level of cooking to feed this like gross body, not gross, but like this physical body. You have your fats, your proteins, your carbs. Like you want to have a balance of all those things. You have these physical aspects that you're cooking with. But then there's a very subtle part to cooking too. And that subtle part is like the mindset that you're in when you're cooking. Um, people say you are what you eat. And also like when your mom cooks for you, she cooks with so much love, and you can taste it in her food. And that's what we want to do when we're cooking with intention. We want to cook with a lot of love. That's the goal. So I can tell I need a little bit more oil. That one came out a little better. I'm also not used to cooking on this induction cooktop, which is actually really cool, but very different. The heat settings are different and everything. So after we make a few of these, I'm going to show you all how to make tofu out of chickpea flour. And the tofu is probably like a softer medium tofu. It's not so much of a firm tofu. And I've even seen People use it as kind of like a substitute for paneer if you're vegan. But even in like any type of, anywhere you would use tofu, you use it in pad thai, or you can even like crumble it up and make kind of like scrambled tofu. Um, I we've what we've done in the past is we've sliced it up and kind of pan fried it a little bit, and then we put it in sandwiches. So that's another way to use it. But it's super versatile, and the fact that you can make it at home and not have to like buy it, and there's no soy in it, and it's just a clean source of protein. Um, I get really excited about it. See, that one came out nicer. I've seen people even use this kind of flatbread for like omelets, like a substitute for omelets. You kind of like put whatever you want in it, um, like Karen said, cheese or like tomatoes, bell peppers, whatever, and just kind of fold it over. And there you go. So, my husband said he likes to put mustard on it. All right. So we're at 124. I'll probably end up cooking the rest of this later. I mean, we have still like a lot of batter. That was only two. We could probably get another 6 to 8. But I want to make sure. Oh, what happened?
But I wonder why you had so much more batter than me. I wonder if I didn't put in enough water?
It could be. On the recipe sheet,
Yeah.
it says 3/4 of a cup.
Okay.
That makes a thicker batter, and they're going to be like thicker flatbreads. But
Okay.
if you add, I just actually changed the recipe sheet to be 3/4 up to a cup of water.
Okay.
So if you add a cup of water, they turn more like not as thin as crepes, but thinner,
Okay.
and you get a little bit more out of it.
Or water. Okay.
So I'll put that to the side. And this tofu too, I slightly changed the recipe because I made one batch, and it came out good. Um, there's lots of different ways to make this, but this is actually the quick way. So we have 1.25 cups of chickpea flour. You can use a little less. You could use probably a cup, and up to 2 cups of water. So Karen, if you're doing that at home, you could probably just use 1 cup of chickpea flour. Let me get my whisk. Okay, so again, same idea. You want to whisk it all together. That was 1/4 of a teaspoon of turmeric, and then 1/2 a teaspoon of salt. Very nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put this into here. have it all in here. And I'm going to add the water. I measured out 2 cups in my bowl, and I'm going to see if that's what I want to do or if I want to leave it at 1 3/4. But I'm probably going to add all of it. And the reason being, at the very end, what happens is like you have to move really quickly at the end once it finishes cooking. So you want to have your pan ready. This isn't on yet. I'm just whisking it in to make sure there's no clumps. But here, I'll show you before I start that. Here on the side, I have like a baking dish with parchment paper. And you don't need to oil it. With the parchment paper, it's enough so that it doesn't stick to anything. But this is kind of like the mold. I've seen people use like flat baking sheets and make just like one long one. I've seen people use like loaf pans and make like a thick one, kind of like more like tofu. I've made one in advance, so I'll show you at the very end because you have to let it sit in the fridge for about 30 minutes. But back to this. Okay, so we're just whisking all the powder into the water. So I think I'm going to add all 2 cups. So it's 1 cup of chickpea flour to 2 cups of water. And again, this recipe, like in my personal recipe book, I have that I add like cumin powder, depending on how you want to spice it. That's the beauty of making it at home, is that you can really add whatever spicing that you want. You can make this with like smoked paprika and make it more of like something that you put in sandwiches, or you can add, cumin. I haven't added like anything solid like cilantro or any other vegetable, but any spices or herbs that you feel like. This is kind of like just the base. Salt and turmeric for color. You don't even have to add turmeric if you don't want to. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. This is pretty whisked through. You can see it's watery. It's even more watery than the other batter. And we're gonna put this to kind of medium. And now is another wait time. What's gonna happen is this is gonna start to stick and get really, really thick. So you want to be on it, like you can't walk away from this. You have to be kind of stirring and whisking, and it's going to take about 10 minutes for it to get to the desired thickness before you put it into the mold. So does anybody have any feedback or any future cooking classes that they would like to see? Or is this setup okay? I'm kind of learning the ropes of all this.
I would like to see, I don't know if you make it or not, but like something like Mexican food, like maybe like something that's easy, maybe something as simple as refried beans, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good too.
I like refried beans too.
Yeah, I mean, we love Mexican food. So that would be good. I actually have a nice like taco seasoning mix that I make, and I can send that out to people too. Narda is suggesting enchiladas. Yeah, I mean, I grew up. My mom's Colombian, and it's an interesting thing to like try to make those things vegetarian, meatless, without meat. It's it takes some practice and just like good good switching skills. But like rice and beans is a staple, for almost every culture.
Mm-hmm.
So I can already feel like it'll clump if you don't whisk it. So this is thickening enough a little. And yeah, now it's the time I need to be on it. Um, it'll try to form a skin at the bottom, and you want to avoid that. I mean, at the very, very end, you're going to have it, like it's going to start to stick up the bottom, but um, yeah, you can kind of see that it's trying to clump. And then you just whisk it out.
So I think mine is it supposed to be like real thick like this, like these?
Yeah, it's supposed to get really, really thick to the point where there's going to be kind of like a bit of a skin at the bottom. And if you don't cook it enough, it won't solidify. So like you don't want it to burn, but you want it to be real, real thick. Like this is already getting thick, but you still want it even more thick than this. And I didn't look at the time, but the timer method is a good method with this. Like 10 minutes is a good time. Like once it starts feeling like there's a skin at the bottom and you can't get it off, and like you really can't even like whisk it very much anymore, that's when you want to put it into your mold, and you want to work quickly so that it doesn't separate in your, because once it hits like something cool, it'll start to just completely, it'll start to solidify, and then if you don't have it all together, it'll just like kind of won't turn into like one block. I'll show you. I actually did one before, and it did that slightly. Yeah, like mine, I feel like mine's ready. Maybe a few more seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll show you guys. It looks like really thick melted cheese. Okay. I'm gonna move this. Put my mold. My glasses are steaming.
Was she not taking the bottom?
Okay.
She wants more bottle.
Might be easier to kind of get a spatula and spread it out and kind of get it to where you want it to be like a block. I'm just gonna kind of use the paper. I don't want this to be really thin, so I'm gonna kind of leave it like that. You can see it's not solid, but it's not moving around anymore. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of let this cool on the countertop for like 10 minutes or till it's cool enough to put in the refrigerator. And then I'll show you the one that I have already made. So I made this one like at noon. So it's been in the fridge for maybe it's pretty solid. Let me slice it so that you can see, get some idea of what it would look like as tofu. Yeah, this one is even more solid than the other one I made with a different recipe. So you can see it's so what we've done before is just kind of thinly slice it like this and pan sear it with some vegetables and put it in sandwiches, or pan sear it with some spices, sorry, and then put it in sandwiches. And that's pretty good. But you can slice it like tofu in squares. You have like a nice chunk. pretty cool. Yeah, and this recipe is, I made one with 1 cup of water and 3 cups of, 1 cup of chickpea flour, 3 cups of water, and it wasn't as solid. I can tell that this one's a lot more solid. Another thing you can do with it is like crumble it up and make it into kind of like scrambled tofu. But yeah, okay, nice. Let me wash my hands real quick. Okay, so thank you so much. If you have, does anybody have any feedback or anything they'd like to add or suggest or take away or anything like that?
Well, I forgot to have a parchment paper. Can I do it without parchment paper?
You would have to really grease the pan.
Grease the pan. Okay.
Yeah. I haven't tried it without parchment paper, but I don't imagine that it would be too bad. Just really make sure to oil up the pan that you're using as a mold.
I also didn't have a whisk or a sifter.
Oh, really? How did
I
it go?
need the right stuff, like, I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, now I know. So it was fun.
Well, that's
Thank
good.
you.
So next time in the recipe sheets, I'll make sure to add what, because I think, in
No, I think you said
terms of
that. I just forgot.
ingredients, but what, pans and things that you'll need. That's a good thing for me to know.
No criticism.